The sky above Outpost Varela was a broken wound of smoke and fire. Red dust moved through the air like slow rain. Explosions had ended hours ago, but the echoes still lived in the ground every few seconds. A distant rumble made the metal walls shake. Somewhere in that silence, a young cadet named Lyra Kale was still breathing. She pressed her back against the wreck of a fallen transport. Her hands trembled as she tried to reload her plasma rifle. The weapon was too heavy for her small frame. Her armor was cracked, covered in ash and blood. Her earpiece hissed with static. The voice of command fading in and out. "Cadet Kale, do not engage. Repeat. Do not engage," and the voice said. But Lyra was alone now. Her squad had been ambushed when the alien patrol arrived. No backup, no air support, no survivors except her. She could still see their faces when she closed her eyes. Her team, her friends, her family, they were gone in less than a minute. The ground around her was littered with glowing alien blood. The enemy bodies twitched under the smoke. She had been trained for war, but no one told her how fear felt when it became real. The kind that lives under your skin, whispering that you are next. Lyra held her breath, listening. There were footsteps ahead, slow, deliberate, metallic through the smoke. She saw a shape moving, tall, armored, breathing with a mechanical hum, an alien soldier, one of the Varine. They were faster, stronger, and twice her size. The creature scanned the area with blue light from its visor. It was hunting, and Lyra was its prey. She gripped her weapon tighter, but her hands shook. She wanted to run, but her legs refused. The alien stopped right in front of her cover. She could hear its breath, unsteady, cold. A low voice came through its comms in a strange language. Then silence. Lyra remembered the training. Breathe, aim, release. She closed one eye and waited. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears. The alien turned slightly, its weapon lowering for a second. That was all she needed. She moved out fast. Like she was part of the wind, the rifle fired a blue flash of plasma. The beam struck the alien in the throat. It stumbled backward, clawing at its neck. Another shot, and the creature fell hard against the dirt. Its body twitched once, then went still. Lyra didn't move. Her weapon still aimed at the body. Smoke rose from the wound, and the air smelled like burning metal. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her breathing turned into gasps. She realized she had just killed someone. Not in training, not in simulation, but for real. The silence after the shot was terrifying. The whole battlefield seemed to pause. Even the wind stopped for a moment. Then a whisper came through her comms, not from command, but another human soldier nearby. Whoever that was. That was fast, another voice added. She kills like a ghost. Lyra ducked behind the wreck again. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't let them fall. She checked her ammo. 6 rounds left. More footsteps echoed from the east. She looked at the alien she killed. Its blood shimmered faintly. Reflecting the glow of fire around her, she whispered to herself, "I didn't want this." But the battlefield doesn't listen to sorrow. It only speaks in survival. When the next alien patrol came, she didn't wait this time. She moved through the shadows, using smoke and silence as her shield. Each step was careful, each breath measured. She remembered her commander's words during training. "Fear is your first weapon. Use it before it uses you." Her fear became focus. Her movements became precise. Another alien fell, then another. Every shot she took was silent death. By the time the sun touched the ruined horizon, Lyra had taken down 5 Varine soldiers. Her armor was dented, her rifle overheated. But her eyes, they had changed. They were no longer the eyes of a frightened cadet. They were sharp, cold, unblinking. When the rescue team finally arrived, they found her standing alone among the bodies. Smoke curled around her like a dark halo. Her rifle pointed downward, her breathing slow. One of the soldiers whispered, "She's the only one left," another said softly. "That's not a cadet anymore." "That's something else," Command recorded her report hours later. They asked how she survived. She said nothing. Her voice was empty, her eyes far away. When they logged her name into the records that night, they added a title beneath it, Death Whisper. From that day forward, whenever soldiers spoke her name, they did it in low tones, because they all knew one truth. The battlefield remembers its ghosts, and the first one to wake among them was her. The morning after the Varela ambush was quiet. Too quiet, smoke still drifted above the broken outpost, and the red light of dawn touched the ruins like fading blood. Rescue teams moved carefully among the wrecks, scanning for any sign of life. They found bodies, human and alien, burned, torn, unrecognizable. But in the center of it all stood Cadet Lyra Kale alone, covered in ash and silence. She didn't speak when they asked questions. She just looked past them, as if she was listening to something they couldn't hear. Her hands were steady now, her eyes cold. The medic tried to clean the blood off her armor, but Lyra stopped her. "It's not my blood," she whispered. Then turned away. News of her survival spread fast. A single cadet who had killed an entire alien patrol alone. The command officers didn't believe it at first. They called it a glitch in the battle data, an exaggeration by panicked soldiers. But the footage from her helmet told the truth. And the truth was terrifying. Lyra watched the recording once. She saw herself move like a shadow, fast, silent, precise, no hesitation, no emotion, just cold efficiency. She didn't remember doing half of it. Her body had moved on its own, like something else had taken control. When the clip ended, she stared at the screen for a long time, then she whispered, "That's not me." The bass grew uneasy. Every time she walked past a group of soldiers, they went quiet. Some looked at her with fear, others with awe. They had started calling her a name. Death Whisper. It began as a joke, then became something more. A legend spreading through every radio and campfire. A ghost story told among the ranks, and she kills without sound, one soldier said. "She doesn't miss," another added. They said her eyes glowed in the dark, that the aliens could hear her coming, but only after they were already dead. Lyra hated the name, but she couldn't escape it. The more she fought it, the stronger it became. Command promoted her. From cadet to specialist, one of the youngest ever. But the promotion felt like a cage, not an honor. They wanted her to lead stealth missions now. To use her silence, her fearlessness, her gift for death. Lyra didn't feel gifted. She felt hollow at night. She couldn't sleep. When she closed her eyes, she saw the alien's face, the first one she killed. Its eyes were still open, looking right at her. Sometimes she thought she heard its voice whispering in the dark. Not words she could understand, but sounds that chilled her blood. It wasn't guilt anymore, it was something deeper. Something waking up inside her. One evening she went to the training dome. The lights were dim, the air heavy with the smell of oil and plasma. She stood before a wall of holographic targets. Without a word, she started shooting. Each shot was perfect, each movement flawless. The system registered a 100% accuracy rate. When the lights came back on, an officer had been watching her. "You were born for this," he said quietly. Lyra didn't look at him. "No one is born for killing," she replied. The officer smiled coldly. "Then how do you explain what you did?" He left her with that question, and she couldn't answer it. The next day, she was sent on another mission, a rescue operation in the border colonies. It was supposed to be simple, but when they arrived, the colony was already lost. The Varine had wiped everything out. Only the smell of burning metal remained. Lyra's team advanced carefully, but the aliens were waiting. The ambush came fast, too fast, in seconds. Her squad was pinned down behind shattered walls. The sergeant yelled for air support. None came. Lyra felt the same cold rush that she had on Varela. That same silent instinct took over again. She rose from cover. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. She crossed open ground, firing, spinning, sliding between bursts of plasma fire. The aliens fell one after another. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Her movements were too perfect, too precise. Her squad watched in shock as the battlefield went silent. When it was over, the air smelled of ozone and fear. Lyra stood in the center, surrounded by alien corpses. Her rifle smoked in her hands. She turned and looked at her team. They were staring at her like she was something inhuman. One of them whispered, "Death Whisper." The name followed her again, louder this time. Even command started using it in official reports after that mission. She wasn't just a soldier anymore, she was a weapon. The army treated her differently. More respect, more distance. They spoke to her through screens. Not face to face, she was assigned solo operations. Deep behind enemy lines, they said it was because she was efficient. But she knew better. They were afraid of her. Late one night, she overheard two officers talking. "She doesn't feel fear or pain like the others," one said. "She's not normal, she's something else," the other replied. Lyra walked away before they noticed her, but their words followed her into her dreams. Was she really human, or had war made her something else entirely? In the days that followed, Lyra's reflection began to feel like a stranger. When she looked into the mirror, she didn't see the scared cadet from Varela. She saw the thing everyone whispered about, the silent killer, the ghost, the death whisper. And deep inside, part of her started to believe it too. The ship Erebus 9 moved through the black void like a ghost, no lights, no signals, only the soft hum of its engines cutting through the silence of space. Inside, Specialist Lyra Kale sat alone in the dropship bay, her hands resting on her helmet. The air smelled like steel and recycled air. Her reflection stared back at her from the metal wall, cold, distant, unreadable. This was not another rescue mission this time. The orders were classified even above command level. Her destination was an alien dreadnought known as Nexus 9, the Varine flagship that had destroyed 3 human colonies in a single night. Her task was simple on paper: infiltrate, retrieve stolen human data, and extract. But everyone on board knew what it really meant. It was a suicide mission. Captain Rowe, the mission commander, entered the bay quietly. He was tall, battle-worn. With eyes that had seen too much death, he handed Lyra a small data chip. "This contains your route inside the ship," he said. "You'll be alone once you enter. We'll keep comms open as long as possible." Lyra nodded, her voice calm. "How long until contact loss?" 5 minutes after you breach. Maybe less." She gave a small, cold smile. "Then I'll make those 5 minutes count." The dropship shook as it entered the alien's gravity field. Through the viewport, Lyra saw the Nexus 9, enormous. Like a floating city of metal and bone, its surface pulsed faintly, alive. The sight made her stomach twist. This was no machine built by logic. It was a creature breathing in the darkness. When the dropship's hatch opened, Lyra jumped into the void. Her jetpack activated with a hiss, slowing her descent toward the ship's hull. Her boots landed silently on the alien surface. It felt warm under her feet, like living flesh. She took a deep breath and began to move. Her visor displayed flickering readings, half interference, half heartbeat. As she entered through a vent shaft, the walls seemed to move, pulsing with strange blue veins that carried glowing fluid. She whispered into her comms, "Command. Visual confirmation that the structure is organic." Static answered her. Then silence. The signal was already gone. Lyra pressed on, her rifle ready, her steps soundless. The corridors twisted like veins inside a giant body. Every surface glistened under faint light. She had been trained for alien environments. But this was different. This ship felt alive, and it was watching her. A low hum echoed through the corridor. Then a whisper, faint, distant, but human. "Lyra." She froze. The sound came from ahead. Her mind told her it was a trick, a recording, a psychological test by the enemy. But her heart knew that voice. It was her old squad leader, Sergeant Taryn. He had died at Varela. Her breath caught in her throat. "Impossible," she muttered. The voice came again, softer now. "Why did you leave me, Lyra?" She raised her rifle, scanning the darkness. No movement, no heat signature, just the slow beating of the ship itself. She forced herself forward. The voice followed her like an echo trapped inside her head. At the end of the corridor, she found a chamber full of strange machines. They looked almost human, parts of them built from metal, parts from flesh. Suspended inside glass tanks were bodies, human bodies. Her blood turned cold. She stepped closer, reading the symbols carved into the floor. Half alien, half human. The translation program flickered, then formed one word on her visor: prototype. Lyra's pulse quickened. Each tank held a figure that looked just like her. Same face, same scars, same eyes. Her voice trembled. What is this?" A recording suddenly activated. A hologram flickered to life. A human scientist, wearing an old military insignia. "Project Whisper," the voice said. Calm and clinical. "Subject Lyra Kale, Clone Batch 4, Combat Variant 2. Lyra stumbled back. "No, I was born on Earth," she whispered. But the hologram continued. "Final phase successful. Enhanced reflex, reduced empathy. Neural suppression complete." The screen went dark. Her heartbeat was loud. Memories raced through her mind. Moments that suddenly felt wrong. Her first kill, her perfect aim, her lack of fear. Were they really hers or programmed? The walls seemed to close in, breathing faster. For the first time since the war began, Lyra felt something close to terror. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel behind her. Alien voices, deep, clicking, angry. She gripped her weapon, tears mixing with sweat. The rage drowned the fear. If she was a weapon, then she would decide how to be used. She aimed toward the corridor and whispered to herself, "Let's see what your creation can do." The first alien appeared. Tall and armored, she fired, the shot lighting up the chamber like a storm. The tank glass shattered and blue liquid spilled over the floor. More aliens entered, but Lyra was faster. Her movements were sharper now, almost unnatural. Bullets and plasma flew through the room, but none touched her. She fought with deadly precision. When the last alien fell, the chamber was silent again. Her breathing slowed, her eyes glowing faintly under her visor. The tanks around her hissed and cracked. The clones inside began to dissolve, their forms breaking apart like dust. Lyra watched as they faded. She realized there was no one left like her, not even her own kind. She looked at the data console and saw one final transmission still running. The message was directed not to the aliens but to human command, it read. Subject confirmed operational, retrieval not required. Lyra understood what that meant. They had sent her here to die. She stared into the blinking red light of the console. Her voice calm. "Command, this is Lyra Kale," she said into her dead comms. "No more control." Then she turned off the recorder. Outside, the alien ship began to stir, as if it too had heard her words. The corridors of Nexus 9 were silent again. Thick smoke drifted through the air like fading ghosts. Every step Lyra took echoed against living metal. Her visor flickered with static, her oxygen level dropping. She had been walking for hours, or maybe days. Time didn't exist here, only survival behind her. The dead lay scattered, alien soldiers and broken machines. But even in the silence, she felt eyes watching. The ship seemed to breathe. Pulses of blue light moved through the walls like veins carrying energy. Each pulse made her feel the heartbeat of something vast, something aware. She found a narrow tunnel that descended deep into the ship's core. It was darker here, almost liquid black. Her flashlight flickered once, then died. She switched to night vision. The walls were wet like skin. Something inside them moved. Slowly, rhythmically, Lyra kept walking. Her boots sank into a soft surface that made a faint sound, like breathing. Every instinct told her to turn back, but she didn't. Something deeper pulled her forward. A whisper in her mind, faint but clear. "Lyra." She froze, that voice again, calm, human, familiar. "Who's there?" She said quietly, no answer, only a slow echo. Then another whisper, closer this time. "You were never supposed to wake up." Her heart skipped. She raised her rifle and turned slowly. No movement, the ship seemed to stretch endlessly. Only shadows and silence, but she knew the voice wasn't in her ears. It was inside her head. "Show yourself," she whispered. The air around her shifted. For a brief second, her visor glitched, showing the outline of a human figure. Female, tall, standing a few meters away. When the static cleared, the figure was gone, but the whisper remained. "Do you know who you are, Lyra?" She shook her head violently, trying to block the sound. "I'm human," she said, her voice trembled. The voice replied softly, almost kind. "No, you are a memory of one." Her knees weakened. The tunnel blurred, the world spinning around her. She leaned against the wall, her breath shallow. Visions flashed before her eyes. Her childhood, the academy, her first mission, but now, small details felt wrong. The faces of her friends changed, the buildings twisted. Even her own voice sounded different in her memory. She gasped for air, the voice grew louder. "You were made from what was left of her." Lyra gritted her teeth. "Left of who?" She shouted. The voice whispered, "Lyra Kale." The real one. Her mind fractured like glass, she fell to her knees. The room spun with images, flashes of another woman in a white uniform, strapped to a table, screaming machines, needles, and cold human faces around her. Then darkness. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was standing in a new chamber. The walls here were metallic, not organic. Human tech. Command's design, she realized with a sinking heart that this section of the ship had been built by humans. A research station hidden inside the alien vessel. Her hands shook. The voice returned, faint but near her ear now. "They didn't send you to destroy the ship. Lyra, they sent you home." She moved deeper into the chamber. Screens flickered on automatically as she passed. Recordings played, human scientists testing weapons, cloning tissue and experimenting on alien DNA. One video froze her completely. A scientist spoke into the camera. Subject whisper, Phase 4 memory imprint successful. Behind him, a motionless body lay inside a glass pod. Lyra stared at it. It was her. Same face, same scar, same everything. Her voice cracked. No, that can't be me. The hologram continued. Project Whisper is stable, capable of autonomous thought, perfect reflex, and obedience. They recommend immediate field testing. The recording ended. Lyra's chest tightened, she whispered. Obedience, as if tasting poison. Suddenly alarms blared, red light filled the room. Something was coming. Heavy footsteps, dozens of them. Lyra aimed her weapon and backed toward the door. But then the voice spoke again, louder than ever. Don't run, Lyra. They are not your enemies. The door burst open, and a group of figures entered. Not fully alien, not fully human. Their skin was gray-blue, their eyes faintly glowing. They moved slowly, without aggression. Lyra held her breath. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a soft metallic tone. Sister. Her weapon trembled in her hands. The creature's face was calm, almost human. It looked like her too. Another clone, another whisper. You were not meant to be alone, the creature said. They left us here to die, but the ship kept us alive. Behind it, more hybrid soldiers appeared. All with the same face, all Lyra's, all broken. She felt her throat tighten. How many of us? She whispered. The leader tilted its head. Enough to remember the truth. Lyra lowered her weapon slowly. She could feel their pain like it was her own. They weren't enemies, they were echoes of her. But before she could speak again, the ground shook violently. A deep roar thundered through the ship. The hybrids looked around in fear. The ship is waking, one said. The core is unstable. Lyra felt heat rise from below. The alarms changed pitch, from warning to countdown. The leader grabbed her arm. There's a control room near the core. You can stop the meltdown. Lyra nodded. What about you? The leader smiled faintly. We were never meant to survive. But you can. The floor split open as Lyra ran. Behind her, she heard the voices fade. Hundreds of whispers calling her name as the ship began to collapse. And under all that sound, she heard the same voice again. Soft, calm, inhumanly gentle. Run. My child, it said. The dark remembers you. The core of Nexus 9 pulsed like the heart of a dying star. Every beat shook the corridors with low thunder. Flames of blue light tore through the walls as the ship began to collapse. Lyra Kale ran through the smoke, her armor cracked. Her breathing sharp behind her. The cries of her clone sisters faded one by one, swallowed by the roar of the ship. She reached the control chamber, a circular room filled with alien machinery. Streams of data flickered across transparent panels. Half human code, half something else. She placed her gloved hand on a console. The system reacted to her touch instantly. Symbols rearranged themselves, forming words she could understand. Access granted. Project Whisper authorized. Her stomach twisted. They had built this place for her. Every command responded to her presence as if she belonged here. The voice in her head whispered again, softer now. End it, Lyra. Finish what they began. She hesitated. She could destroy the ship, erase every trace of what the humans had done, or she could find the truth first. Her trembling hands entered a command sequence. The screens filled with hundreds of files, videos, reports, personal logs, each stamped with the same insignia. Human command. One video opened automatically. A familiar voice spoke. General Varen, her old mentor, the man who had trained her at the academy. Report 312, Project Whisper, he said. The subject continues to evolve beyond expectations. Reaction times near zero. Empathy levels minimal. Perfect for frontline infiltration. He paused, his tone colder now. However, signs of independent thought detected. Risk of rebellion high. Protocol requires termination. Lyra's breath caught. She replayed the line. Protocol requires termination. He was talking about her. They hadn't just sent her here to retrieve data. They had sent her here to die. Her chest burned with anger. She smashed the console with her rifle butt, sparks flew, and alarms began to scream through the chamber. For a moment she didn't move, then slowly she whispered, You used me. A transmission alert blinked on the last working screen. It showed a live feed. The bridge of the human fleet. General Varen appeared, his face calm and composed. Subject Whisper. This is command, he said. Confirm data upload. Your mission is complete. Lyra stared at him, her voice shaking with rage. You knew what was here, didn't you? Varen's expression didn't change. I did, he said simply. You were created to access the ship's systems, to make it self-destruct from within. Lyra clenched her fists. And the others? The clones? My sisters? Varen looked away for a moment, then back. Unstable failures. You're the only one that worked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You made me a weapon. Varen nodded slowly. That was the point. Humanity needs tools, not heroes. He pressed something off-screen, and a red light flashed on Lyra's chest plate. Her suit locked, muscles freezing. She fell to her knees, unable to move. Command override, Varen said coldly. You did well, Lyra, but your mission is over. You'll burn with the ship. The screen went black. Lyra's breath came fast and shallow. Her heart pounded against her armor. The voice in her head whispered again, louder now. Are you going to let them end you like this? She tried to fight the paralysis. Her fingers twitched, then her wrist. The control chip inside her armor glowed red. It was shutting her body down. She focused every thought she had, every ounce of will. Her body shook violently, and then with a scream that tore through her throat, she broke free. The red light died. The ship around her trembled as another explosion ripped through the walls. Steam and fire filled the chamber. Lyra stood, shaking. Her visor cracked, but her eyes burning. She opened the data port and rerouted the ship's power into the communication system. Her voice filled the command channel. You made me, she said quietly. Now watch what I've become. She sent the stolen files back to the human fleet, and all of them. Every secret, every experiment, every lie. The truth spread through command like wildfire. General Varen's voice shouted through the comms, Lyra, stop this! You'll expose everything. But she didn't stop. She wanted them to feel what she had felt. Powerless and betrayed. The lights in the chamber flickered as the ship's AI spoke through the speakers. A calm alien voice. Core meltdown in progress. Evacuation impossible, Lyra smirked. Good, she whispered through the broken viewport. She saw the stars outside. The fleet hung there in perfect silence, watching the ship tear itself apart one by one. Her memories began to fade. The academy, the battlefield, the faces of those she had lost, all replaced by a single thought, freedom. She reached down to the console and set a final command. Redirect energy to escape pods, she said. But the AI responded, escape pods disabled. Structural failure imminent. She closed her eyes. Then make a door. The ship groaned like a living creature tearing itself open. Lyra ran as the corridors behind her exploded in waves of blue fire. She jumped through a collapsing hatch and fell into open space. The blast threw her body into the void, spinning, tumbling, weightless. She drifted among debris and light, surrounded by silence again. Her suit systems barely held together. The stars blurred in her vision. She could hear Varen's voice faintly through static. Lyra, do you copy? Are you alive? She smiled weakly, her voice fading. I'm not yours anymore, she whispered. The transmission cut. The wreck of Nexus 9 burned behind her like a dying sun. The war would continue, but something had changed. Command had lost control of its perfect weapon, and somewhere deep inside that silence, humanity had gained a ghost it could never kill. The void was cold, endless, and silent. Lyra Kale floated through it like a broken star. Her armor was cracked, her oxygen was fading. The remains of Nexus 9 burned behind her, a massive storm of blue fire and shattered metal. She should have died, but something refused to let her go. Her visor blinked with weak light. System failure. Life support critical. She exhaled slowly, the sound of her own breath echoing inside the helmet. The stars spun around her, and for a moment, she wondered if this was peace. No orders, no enemies, no pain, just silence. But then the voice returned, faint and distant. Lyra, wake up. Her eyes snapped open. She wasn't sure if it was real or just her dying mind. The voice grew clearer. You are not done yet. A blinding flash appeared in the distance and a small shuttle breaking through the debris. Its magnetic net wrapped around her body and pulled her in. Darkness swallowed her again. When she opened her eyes, she was inside a dimly lit medical bay. Machines hummed softly and the air smelled like ozone. A human figure stood near the bed. He wore a black uniform with the insignia of command. His face was scarred, his eyes sharp. Welcome back, soldier, he said coldly. Lyra tried to sit up, but restraints locked around her arms. Where am I? She demanded. The man smiled faintly. Safe. For now. He introduced himself as Director Merrick, head of Tactical Division, the man who had overseen Project Whisper. "You destroyed valuable data," he said, pacing slowly. "Do you have any idea what that cost us?" Lyra stared at him, her voice steady. "You made me a weapon, not a person." He chuckled softly. "And the weapon worked beautifully." Her blood boiled. "You think this is victory?" "You used me. You lied." Merrick stopped and looked directly at her. "We gave you purpose. Without us, you're just another ghost drifting in space." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, her voice calm. "I'd rather be a ghost than your machine." She pulled at the restraints. They didn't move. Merrick leaned closer. "Project Whisper is finished, but your DNA is priceless. We'll rebuild smarter this time." Lyra's pulse quickened. "You won't live to try," she whispered. He smirked. "You're still predictable." He pressed a button on the wall, and the door opened. Armed soldiers entered the room, their weapons aimed at her. "Take her to containment," Merrick ordered. As they unlocked her restraints, one soldier hesitated. "Sir, are you sure?" "She's—" "Do it," Merrick snapped. The moment the restraints clicked open, Lyra moved faster than any human could see. She grabbed the soldier's rifle and spun. 2 shots, precise, silent, final. Both guards dropped before they even screamed. Merrick stumbled backward, eyes wide. Lyra stood, her armor cracked but her stance unshaken. Her voice was low. "You should have left me in the dark." Merrick reached for a pistol, but she fired first. The blast hit his shoulder. Knocking him against the wall, he groaned, blood dripping from his sleeve. "You can't stop what's coming," he spat. "Humanity will always build new weapons." Lyra stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. "Then I'll keep breaking them," she said. She took his ID chip and accessed the terminal. Security alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed and mechanical doors sealed shut. Through the glass window, she could see soldiers rushing through the corridors. She uploaded the remaining Whisper files into the network. Not to destroy them this time, but to expose them. Every colony, every base, every citizen would see the truth. The screens flickered with her message. Her voice echoed across the system. "This is Lyra Kale," she said. "You called me Death Whisper, a weapon, a monster. But I was never yours. I was human once, and I remember what that means. Choice. Now you'll remember too." She overloaded the station's power grid. The walls trembled, sparks raining from the ceiling. Merrick crawled toward her, his voice breaking. "You're dooming us all." Lyra looked down at him. "No, I'm freeing us." She left him there, limping through the burning hallway. Sirens screamed and gunfire echoed behind her. She didn't stop. Every memory, every scream, every betrayal fueled her steps. She reached the hangar and found a small transport ship still intact as she climbed aboard. She looked back one last time through the flames. She could see the station collapsing, the fire reflecting in her visor like dying stars. When the engines roared to life, she whispered to herself, "No more masters." The ship broke free from the station. Behind her, the facility exploded into brilliant light. It spread across the black sky like sunrise after endless night. Hours later, she drifted in silence once more, her ship's systems barely working, her mind exhausted. But for the first time, she felt free. She sent one last transmission to the open galaxy. "Whatever they made me, I'm not theirs anymore." The signal carried through space, a warning, a promise, a spark far below on a distant planet. Command intercepted the message, but before they could trace it, it vanished. Only a faint echo remained in their systems, a whisper, and in the dark, soldiers began to speak of her again. The ghost who turned against her creators, the weapon that refused to obey, the one they called Death Whisper. The stars had never looked so quiet. 1,000 lights shimmered across the void like frozen embers. The war between humans and the Varine had slowed, but peace was nowhere to be found. Both sides licked their wounds, counting their dead. And in the silence that followed the chaos, a story began to spread. They called it a rumor at first. A ghost tale for tired soldiers, a lone ship, black as night, moving between war zones without any signal. Sometimes, entire enemy squads were found dead, their weapons untouched. No signs of struggle, no traces of battle, only the faint echo of a whisper left on their comms. Her name was Lyra Kale. But the galaxy no longer called her that. To soldiers and mercenaries alike, she was Death Whisper, the weapon that lived, the ghost that hunted, the voice that never died. On a forgotten moon in the outer belt, a group of smugglers gathered in a broken tavern. They spoke in low voices. "I heard she destroyed an entire battalion with her bare hands," one said.
"No," another argued. "She walks through battlefields and the dead just stop moving." The oldest among them leaned forward, his voice rough. "She doesn't kill for the humans anymore, or the Varine. She kills for the forgotten."
They all went silent after that. Across the stars, strange things began to happen. Weapons depots exploded without warning. Secret command stations went offline overnight. Varine warlords vanished mid-speech. Every time, the same message appeared on the comm screen before blackout. No more masters. Command denied her existence. They called it a virus, a ghost program left by the Nexus 9 event, but soldiers whispered otherwise. They said the ghost was real, that she walked among the wrecks of forgotten worlds, saving those who couldn't save themselves. Some said she was dead, some said she was alive but changed, and some swore they had seen her. A tall figure in cracked black armor, her eyes glowing faintly blue, never speaking, only watching. One witness claimed she saved a convoy of refugees from pirates, before disappearing into the dust, leaving behind nothing but silence. Meanwhile, deep inside the ruined core of an abandoned planet, Lyra sat alone beside a dying campfire. Her helmet lay beside her, her face illuminated by the flickering orange light. Her hair had grown long, her skin pale under the glow of the fire. She looked at the stars above and whispered softly, "How many more lies will they build before they learn?" She was tired, not from running, but from remembering. Every night, she heard the voices of her sisters, the clones left behind on Nexus 9. They whispered through her dreams, "We are still with you." Sometimes she answered them out loud. "I know," she would say quietly. "You're the only ones who never lied to me." Her ship's AI flickered on, the same alien interface she had reprogrammed to obey her alone. It spoke gently, almost like a friend. "Signal detected. Distress beacon from human colony Delta 47. Lyra sighed. "There's always another one." She stood slowly, her armor creaking as she put it back on. The black plating was scarred and burned, but it still fit her like a second skin. When she stepped onto the cold surface of the moon, the wind carried dust across the ruins. Her footsteps were soft, steady, deliberate. She boarded her ship. The whisper. As the engines roared to life, she looked at her reflection in the cockpit glass. For a moment, she didn't see the weapon they made. She saw the girl who had once hesitated before her first kill. And she smiled sadly. The ship vanished into hyperspace. No one saw it leave, no one tracked it. But across the stars, her signal echoed again, a faint frequency carried by the void. Her voice, calm, distant, almost human. "This is not the end," she said. "As long as you build monsters, I will be here." Weeks later, in a command war room, high-ranking officers reviewed satellite images. One showed the remains of a destroyed base, clean, precise, surgical. Another one, an officer muttered. General Varon, now older and bitter, stared at the screen silently. He rubbed the scar on his shoulder. The one she gave him. "She's still out there," he said. "Maybe she always will be." Across the galaxy, alien scouts spoke of her too. They feared her more than fleets. They said her presence felt like gravity, heavy, quiet, inevitable. Some called her a demon, others called her balance, and among the few who survived her wrath, there was one phrase all of them remembered. A soft voice that spoke just before the silence. "Sleep now, no more masters." Years passed. The war eventually ended. Not through peace, but exhaustion. Worlds rebuilt, alliances formed, and history began to fade. But her story didn't. Children on distant colonies whispered her name at night. Soldiers etched her symbol, a single broken wing, onto their armor for protection. And in dark corners of space, smugglers still told her story, the one about the human who was born to kill but chose to live. Lyra Kale, the soldier who became a ghost. The weapon who found her soul. the whisper that became a legend. Far away, on a nameless planet covered in red storms, a lone figure watched the sunrise. Her armor faded, her rifle resting beside her. The wind carried her hair across her face as she looked toward the horizon. For the first time she felt warmth, not from fire but from peace, and she whispered softly, "For them, for all of us." The sun rose higher, painting the world in gold, and somewhere in the quiet hum of the galaxy her voice echoed one last time, not as a weapon, not as a ghost, but as a promise. "I am Death Whisper, and I am free."